In Ephesians 5:1, Paul says that as beloved children, imitate God. How in the world do you do that? God is a big God, and there are so many possibilities as far as imitating Him in our relationships. Well, in this video, I want to pull out one strand of this idea of imitating our Creator in our relationships, and I want to talk about that. The specific strand is your marriage. Hello everyone, Rick Thomas here. We're helping people live effective lives. Again, Ephesians 5:1, as beloved children, imitate God. 1 Corinthians 11:1, follow me as I follow Christ. And so there's a big call on our lives to imitate God. We call it Christ-likeness sometimes. This is marriage devotion number 3 if you want to read it. And the specific strand that I'm pulling out is for our marriage. And I want to ask you a question as far as what it looks like to imitate God. And I'm going to use Romans 8:31 as my text. In Romans 8:31, Paul said this to the believers in Rome. He says, if God is for you, who can be against you? And so what we see in that text is that God was for the Romans. And that's the question that I'm asking you in this devotional. Are you for your spouse? And so wife, as you think about your husband, could you say that my husband is for me, that he's really for me? And then husband, could you say the same thing about your wife? Is she for you? It's a big deal. Go back to the context where Paul was writing this to the Romans. The Romans were being persecuted. They were being killed all day long. It was a slaughter back then, and they needed to know, they needed assurance that God was for them. And Paul came along and he wanted to let them know, please rest assured. What can we say to these things? He asked. And then he said, if God be for you, who can be against you? Well, as you imitate that aspect of God in your marriage, you know how profound it is if you are experiencing it. You imagine how profound it could be if you were experiencing it. Marriage is hard. Life is hard. There's persecution that comes into our lives. There are challenges every day. And having that kind of unity with your spouse is just incredible. But more than that, it's transforming. It's satisfying. It brings a peace to your soul. If your husband is for you, who can be against you? What a powerful way to imitate God in the marriage. If your wife is for you, what a powerful way to imitate God. And so that is the big question that I'm asking in this video. Again, go back to the context. They were being persecuted, and so Paul wanted to let them know that everything is going to be okay. I can't necessarily change the circumstances that are happening in your fallen world, but God is for you. This is marriage devotion number 3. The question that I'm asking, are you for your spouse? Here are a couple of questions that I want you to think about as you meditate on this idea of imitating God according to Romans 8:31. If God is for you, who can be against you? Are you for your spouse? It is a straightforward question. In what ways do you need to change? Are there some areas in your life? Are there some things that you need to work through so that you can truly be for your spouse? Perhaps you can go at it another way and think about the benefits if you had that kind of unity. So if there's something coming between you two, what do we need to do to pull that thing or those things out so that we can be a true one flesh union where we are for each other? Now, another thing that would be quite enjoyable, I'm sure, if you went on a date and talked about how you are for each other. It would be fantastic if you just sat and just identified evidences of grace in each other's life that just affirms this idea that your spouse is for you. You see, in Romans 8:29 and 30, Paul was affirming how God was for them. He says that God foreknew you, He predestined you, He called you, He justified you, He glorified you. And so you see evidence that God was for them. You just don't want it to be a cliche. You don't want it to be an empty phrase. Well, yes, I am for you. When Paul said that, well, he proved it. He talked about how God was for them by letting them know the benefits, the things that God has done for them, specifically foreknowledge, predestination, calling, justification, and glorification. So as you sit and talk about how you're for each other, it would be wonderful, and I'm sure very encouraging to both of you, to talk about the evidence of this idea that proves that you are for each other. Now, if your marriage is not in a place to where you're not for each other, for whatever reason you have gotten to this place, well, I just appeal to you to talk through what you need to do to remove the things that hinder each other so that you can enjoy this benefit of imitating God in your relationship. If you need help, which happens many times, that sometimes there's so much water under the bridge that we just can't get to that place to where we want to talk about these things. If you need help, I would encourage you, if you want to, you can come to our ministry, our website. We would love to give you some advice. We may even direct you to a counselor if you need someone, a third party, to intervene with what is going on in your marriage. And so just let us know how we can serve you. And be sure to watch all of these devotions. I have a 31-day marriage devotion, a 31-day parenting devotion, and a 31-day teenage devotion. You can watch all of these resources, and there's a ton more from our ministry, and they're all free to you. Thank you so much for watching the video.